All right. Thank you for joining us for this session. We are going to talk about MCON and MCON Plus and the work that we did for the Lands End install, especially around how MCON can work with SendShare partners on managing the services of an AWS install. My name is Chris Lehman. I am the Vice President of Solution Architecture at MCON Plus. I've been working with SendShare for almost 10 years now and am the DAM practice lead at MCON Plus. With me is Gunther from MCON.
Hey Chris, thank you. Yes, my name is Günther Kreuzmann. I'm General Manager of MCON and responsible for our public cloud business. Already 30 years in the business, and today I would like to explain a few things about the ongoing partnership between SendShare and MCON. Explain what MCON Managed Services is and what is the service level agreement for SendShare customers. Together with Chris, we will explain how the cooperation between MCON Plus and Lands End is working and resulting in a successful project for Lands End. And after the presentation, Chris and me will be happy to answer your question in the Q&A session. About MCON. MCON has a global footprint. We have offices in Asia, in Europe, in Northern Africa, and in Americas. We are running quite some different workloads, SendShare being one of them. And whatever we do, security in running infrastructure and workloads is always one of our main targets. About the partnership between SendShare and MCON, this was officially established in 2018 already. Since then, MCON is taking care as managed service provider for SendShare environments which are running on AWS. We have not been new to SendShare in 2018. We have already been running SendShare on AWS since 2014. So meanwhile, we do have quite some knowledge and insights into the SendShare application landscape. We are currently running way more than 10 projects in different time zones, Americas, Europe, and Asia. And we are doing all these SendShare projects in cooperation with different SendShare implementation partners, where MCON Plus is the partner we are doing the most projects with. I think it's important to mention that the typical MCON involvement already starts in the pre-sales phase, where we are working together with MCON Plus in order to create cost estimations concerning AWS cost, managed service cost, optimize this cost, explain them to the customer. We will go into discussion about security and compliance topics concerning IT infrastructure, which usually are raised by customers' IT department. And in any case, we will make them happy beforehand, so that this is always a benefit for the pre-sales phase. We will explain the architecture on AWS, issues of security, availability to the customer, so that the customer can be aware beforehand what he's getting. And we are supporting the pre-sales phase with that. During the initial setup phase, I think it's important to know that we are not only setting up the infrastructure based on AWS, but we are also doing the basic SendShare application setup. Means we will hand over a running SendShare application to the implementation partner, so that the partner can start right away doing the implementation and customization tasks while we are starting to do our managed service tasks like taking care for security patches. During the implementation phase, we will support the partner with fine-tuning and support with go-live, asset ingestion, and so on. During the run phase, it's again a cooperation between MSphere Plus and MCON, where we will also take care for application lifecycle support, means upgrades of the Sentia application. At MCON, we are doing managed services meanwhile since 2001, and also since 2001, 24/7 is our time model and the only time model which we are running. Like I said before, our cloud team is located in Asia, Northern Africa, Europe, and Americas, and actually we are considering ourselves as one team which is used to work around time zones. By doing that since more than 20 years, we have a very huge bandwidth of operating systems, platforms, applications which are running on AWS under our managed services, Sentia being one of these workloads. We have been switching from data centers, co-locations. Of course, we had to start with that in 2001, to AWS in 2013, including China since 2015. And by the way, there are also Sentia projects which include China region. And we are advanced consulting partner today since 2018. I'm giving back to Chris now, who will explain some more details about MCO Plus and our common projects.
Thank you, Gunther. Before I get into the Lands End use case, just a little bit about us at MSphere Plus. We are a joint venture that is formed between MSphere and MSP. We are a Sentia Platinum partner with over 14 years of Sentia experience and almost 20 years of marketing technology experience. Like MCON, we are a end-to-end company to work with the Sentia side. So we can do pre-sales, advisory, full implementation, configuration, development as necessary within there, and then also do managed services after an implementation, including any changes that you need to do for your system, training, support, digital asset assurance, and then also even librarian services as necessary. So we're able to go for a full end-to-end and continue to work with you after the project goes live as well. And we've been working with MCON now for a couple of years, and we have 3 different implementations in service right now. It's been a great way to work together and really work with the AWS and learn a lot of new things that we didn't have before. So what I wanted to talk about today is the Lands End project. And here's the scope that we had. And what's in yellow is what we worked with MCON on, and that's what we're going to focus on. So we have 3 systems, all of them in AWS and managed by MCON. We had to bring over about 30 terabytes of assets from their old system, integrate into a couple of different systems. So a Commander integration or their SHOT system, InDesign integration, obviously, and then also their SSO or SAML for the ping identity server. Set up all their metadata, all custom panels as necessary in both the Java and web client. And then we also did email notifications, create assets automatically, and did all of their workflows defined within the system. So it was a full end-to-end setup of a Sentia system. And we were under a tight timeline because they were retiring their old system within 6 months of our starting time. So we had to basically do this in a couple of phases. And this first phase was mostly a lift and shift from their old system, MediaBank, into their new system of Sentia, and trying to get everything up and running within a couple of months. Training and everything was a very tight timeline. And the first item that we had to tackle really was getting over all that information. So if we were going to do an upload, this is going to take almost 2/3 of a year to manually upload all this different information. So we had to figure out how to bring over and what to bring over and when to bring over all this different information. They had over 100 terabytes in their old system. We had to bring it over in phases. So we started with what was created in the last 2 years, then what was edited and changed in that time frame from them to the go live, and then bring over everything else after the fact. With discussions with MCON, we decided that using a snowball what's going to be the best way to get these files into the new Senshare system. So the Snowball is basically a standalone computer with an S3 bucket. So we're able to ship that over to their location, set it up into their system, transfer over the files. So transfer over not just the raw files, but then also metadata sidecars with it too. Brought that over. Then we figured out how do we get that actually into Senshare. We wanted to use the standard hot folder mechanism, but we were running into problems with S3 to S3 with the hot folders. And we found out with working with MCON and Senshare that you needed to transfer to an EFS storage system first. So MCON would take the Snowball, upload that into a temporary EFS storage for us. We then worked together to create scripts to move all the files via the standard hot folder mechanism to bring in all of the InDesign PDFs, images, and also all those sidecar files into Senshare, have everything in there, and then we could run the metadata via XML and then also the XMP mapping that we have set up so that we're able to have fully enriched assets too within the system. So we did this in 3 different phases. And then the second phase, when we were bringing over the last edited ones, we had to do that actually after go live. So we worked together to change around the system so that we could use the remote server that they had and use that mostly off hours to bring in so we weren't affecting any of the work that was actually being done at that time. So partnering up with MCON, because they really know the technology on the AWS side, they can make the recommendations of what do we need to change, what should we be at to be able to make sure that our level of work is still going to be able to be taken care of. The next integration that we had to do is to get information from their shot management system. So there's a system called Workhorse that they put in all of their shot information. So everything that they're going to shoot from the studio or out in the field gets entered into this system. And then we need to try to get that into Senshare so we can have metadata to go along with the images. So working with MCON, we discussed having a file transfer via AWS. Out of the Workhorse system, there's no APIs or anything for us to tie in, so we were only able to get a CSV. And we wanted to be able to automate this instead of having it get emailed in and somebody has to upload it and run it. So we were able to create another S3 bucket that gets a nightly CSV. And that CSV then is then transferred from a S3 bucket that's shared into Senshare, where we're able to parse that information. And we create placeholders. So metadata-rich placeholders with all the information that was entered into the Workhorse system. Then via hot folder, after the information's actually shot, they get ingested into Senshare and they will replace those those placeholders with the actual image so that we're having everything that is entered into one system now is transferred into Senshare and is now associated with those images too. We also have the ability to create alternates based off of this. So based off of the information that comes in, we can make an alternate which then duplicates all of that metadata that's already there so that everything's going to get all the metadata, style numbers, information about the clothing, everything's going to be there so that you can reuse these information. You find the files and reuse them throughout the system. So overall, we were able to set up the system. The basic information was over 20 workflows, 600 users. We cut back at about 50% of the steps in some of their workflow processes. The first phases, we brought over 1.5 million assets with right around 20 terabytes of data. We had the 2 integrations that we talked about, and we had to set up a lot of different server actions for them. Along with the training, we did 500 users worldwide in 2 weeks. We changed them from InDesign 2016 to 2018. We just finished with them a couple weeks ago about getting up to 2020 now. And then now they actually have the dam owned internally instead of by a separate outside company. And then we did hit their go live date of 9/1, which is very important. So we are now working on second and third phases with them, trying to integrate into some of their other systems and bring in more and more usage within there. Since the first one was really just a lift and shift, we've really just been able to start adding on over the last year. So after the first phase, we've now been able to do a lot of additions. And working with MCON on a lot of the recommendations, it makes it really helpful so that we can focus on the Senshare, they can focus on the AWS and the management of the systems, and then we can all work together to make sure that Land's End's getting everything that they need.
Chris, thanks for pointing out how the cooperation between MCON Plus and MCON is leading to successful projects. Let me go a bit deeper into what we call shared responsibility model, starting with the AWS global cloud infrastructure. I think most of you have heard the AWS session yesterday, where AWS has been explaining how they are delivering high available and high secure cloud services on a global scale. So I don't have to repeat this today. MCON Managed Services is building the infrastructure that Essentia application is running in based on these cloud services like compute, database, network, and multiple other services from AWS. And of course, for this infrastructure which is built on cloud services, MCON is taking responsibility for the security of this cloud infrastructure, including backup, 24/7 monitoring, 24/7 operations. And in short, MCON is the AWS gatekeeper for such projects. MCON is also taking responsibility for the Essentia application being up and running, available, but MSphere Plus has the application responsibility, means MCON Plus is taking responsibility for the functionality which the Essentia system is providing to the customer, and is kind of a gatekeeper towards Essentia. The good thing for a customer is that customer needs a running system to do his business, but customer doesn't need deep Essentia application knowledge, because this part is at MSphere Plus, and customer doesn't need to know basically anything about AWS, because this part is taken care by MCON. In a typical project workflow, you can also see the interaction between MCON and MSphere Plus, because in the beginning of the project, MCON will take care for setting up the infrastructure, will also set up and configure a basic Essentia system. And at the end of this phase, usually about after 2 or 3 weeks, will hand over these environments, in most cases at least 2 environments, QA and production, to MSphere Plus, and MSphere Plus then can start the Essentia development and Essentia customization in order to fill the functional requirements from customer side. In this phase, MCON is already starting to deliver managed services, such as taking responsibility for backup, security, and security patches. Nevertheless, we are not yet in a 24/7 phase. MCON will take a more active role when MSphere is starting to migrate assets and ingest assets into the Essentia system, because the technical challenge is to get partially large amounts of data of hundreds of terabytes as fast and as close as possible to the Essentia system, so that the asset ingest can be done as fast as possible. So that's also a phase where we have a very close cooperation between MCON and MSphere Plus. Finally, when the application is in production, as we have seen in the slide before, we are working in this kind of responsibility share, where MSphere Plus is taking responsibility for the application functionality, and MCON is taking responsibility for uptime and security of infrastructure and application. Talking about 24/7 brings me to explain a few things about the MCON service level agreement, about the deliverables which we have there. Of course, 24/7 services monitoring systems and workloads, 24/7 being able to react on short term if something unplanned happens, being reachable 24/7 is very important, and that's part of MCON's delivery. Beside that, of course, when infrastructure changes are going to be done, we will do this either outside of customers' local office hours or during weekend. We will take care for all kinds of security patches, which we usually apply once a month. In urgent cases, we apply them immediately. Usually twice a month, we will run through the AWS account, check the systems for cost reduction opportunities or availability improvements. And once we find such possibilities, we will document them in our Confluence system, forward to and discuss with MSphere Plus. MSphere Plus will discuss with customer, get an approval, and then we can execute the change and save cloud costs for the customer. We are also taking care for backup management, which means backup is our responsibility. We are also responsible that backups are available, can be successfully restored. Disaster recovery is an option which we are offering to our customers in case the Sentia system is critical for customers' business. For example, because then we can set up a warm disaster recovery solution which has been developed by MCON and which is ensuring that in case of a disaster, the system in the disaster recovery region can be started and get functional in a very short period of time. In Sentia projects, MCON is also taking responsibility for application updates, such as minor upgrades, major upgrades. But of course, we are always doing this in cooperation with the Sentia partner, and the Sentia partner is taking care for the communication with the customer. I did not talk about security, which was bullet point 5 in the last slide, because this is a more important topic. So security is one of our major priorities, and we are building up several lines of defense in order to secure our customers' data. One of them, of course, is the fact that all connections leading in and out of the environment are encrypted. We are setting up and operating web application firewalls, which basically means, in addition to traditional firewalls, a web application will open each data packet, inspect it according to several thousand of rules in order to find if something suspicious is going on. We will implement and run a host-based intrusion detection system on the host of the system. Means the system is inspecting what is happening on each of the operating system, also according to several thousand of rules, and find out if something unusual or suspicious is going on there. Assets which are uploaded to the system are checked by anti-malware and antivirus scanner, and if one of these systems finds something unusual going on, it will notify our 24/7 system, our 24/7 team, so that we can take immediate action. Backup will be replicated into another region and into another account, into another region, because when a region should be unavailable, you still have the data secure in the other region. In case your production workload gets compromised for whatever reason, you will still have the data in the other AWS account, which is completely separated and cannot be compromised. I was talking about disaster recovery already. The key fact with this warm standby disaster recovery is that in case of a disaster, we don't have to create a new infrastructure and feed it with backup data. The infrastructures and systems are already there. We just have to spin them up and switch the DNS basically. Last but not least is that we are offering continuous pen testing of your system. Means your systems will be thoroughly pen tested once per week or once per day, so that upcoming security threats, new security threats are identified very fast, and also from our side, we can take measures to fix them very fast. So I'm coming already to an end of my speech. What I wanted to show you is that as an Sentia customer, you can expect MCON to seamlessly cooperate with your Sentia implementation partner, such as MCON+. You can expect MCON to operate and run your systems 24/7, and MCON is your single point of contact for all topics related to security, availability, or AWS. So we will start the QA round then. Chris and me will be available to answer your questions. For now, thanks for your attention.